Okay. Mazel tov to Pinchas Elio Fisher on the birth of a grandson, and the bris, right? Exchange Nicholas bris came to cut to Klippel of Weissen Toivim, and tomorrow is the bris. Okay. Kuf Samech Ches Amid Aleph. So the Mishnah, we're going through some technical halachas of shtaris, and it said that the Baal, he would go ahead and pay for the get and for the shaver. He'd pay the scribe for the shaver. My timer, the Amakra, what does he pay for the get? The Amakra, because the pasuk says, the chasav increases v'nasam biyada. So it says the chasav, who's writing it? Kuf Samech Ches Amid Aleph. Ches 8. The chasav in Nasan, it says the chasav lo sefer krisis v'nasam biyada, right? And therefore, it's obviously speaking about him. He writes it and he gives it, meaning so how does he write it? He tells the sefer to write it. He pays him. But idna d'lo yavdin and hachi, and how come bisman azel the woman pays for the get? Shadu rabbanan Aisha, the chachamim placed the onus of writing the get in the isha kehechid lo l'shaye, in order that what she shouldn't become an aguna, she shouldn't be left around. Yeah, in other words, if you can leave it up to him, he's going to dilly dally around. Says Rishbam, b'shvil aschar shein roitzel litain. He doesn't want to give it. This again, she'll be an aguna should be attached to him. So to avoid this, what do? We go ahead and she pays for it. You write a star for the loiva, even though what? The malva is not with him. So pshita, again, who is the loiva is the one who gains by having the star ready, because again, the loan will be ready for him. So l'chayra, why would you think the malva has to pay for it? I mean, who wants the loan? The loiva. So who would you think has to pay? The loiva. So why do you have to tell me that the loiva pays? It seems to be pashut that the loiva pays, not the malva. On that, the Gemara answers pshita leitzricha beiska. What are we speaking about over here? We're speaking about a business arrangement that we're familiar with from Ezu and Neshech, right? Where you have an investor, and the investor goes ahead and has a man who works for him. He gives the person half of the schar, and that's considered a loan, and he gets the other half. So l'chayr, since the malva is getting the other half, says Rabbeinu Gershom, you would think that he's nene, so also he should pay for it. Kamashma on that, no. That's still the malva is the loiv is the one getting the loan. Since he's getting the loan, he's gonna what? He's gonna have to pay for the slave for writing the shtar.
They both getting another.
Again, it's the loiva getting something for nothing is more of hana, right? He's getting, what is he getting? This guy's a future, perhaps will make some money. So there's such a havamina, and like your question is the havamina of the Gemara, and the answer is the bottom line is what? The loiva is the one gaining anything. What is he doing? He's getting money, right? He's getting the better advantage. Now, you're right, says Pshita, what's the problem? In other words, when a person goes ahead and who's paying for it? The lekeach is paying for it, right? The lekeach is paying for it, right? Because the lekeach has everything to gain. When throughout Shas, fellas, anytime you purchase karka real estate, it's considered a very good thing. To sell your real estate is considered not a good thing. Because again, your real estate is there for you. It's your investment. To sell it is not a good thing. So over here, the meicher, of course, the lekeach is going to pay for it. He's the one gaining the real estate. So Fred the Gemara Pshita, if the lekeach is gaining the real estate, of course he writes it. Why would you think the meicher has to go ahead and write it? It makes no sense. On that, the Gemara answers, you know what we're speaking about? We're speaking about a case where the meicher sadeum if they rasa. He has a field that's bad. He probably had trouble selling the field. He finally finds a buyer to sell the field. So you would think that what? He's all too happy to pay for what? The schar of the slafer. Kamash Malon, the Mishnah that no, even so, the lekeach, buying a field, as poor as it is, as poor quality as it is still the main hana, and therefore what? The lekeach pays the slafer. Okay, the next thing was in Kaisin Shtori Erisin. That Shtori Erisin was what was speaking about, like they make up what each one's going to give, and as soon as the ksuba, and who pays for that? El Midash Shneim, the Chasim pays for it. Okay, so says the Gemara, Maishta, what says the Gemara, Pshita leitzricha dafil tzumer rabbanon, even a Talmud Chacham, the nichalei lechamu lekroive, that the father was very happy to welcome him as a Karav. In other words, the Gemara tells us that in Pesachim you're supposed to marry off your child to a Talmud Chacham. So over here, this father-in-law is marrying his daughter off to a Talmud Chacham. You would think he's so happy with that arrangement that he should pay for what the shtaros, right? Kamash Malon, that no, the chassan still pays. Kamash Malon, the chassan still pays. Ein kais mishtar arisus the kablanus. Now the arisus and kablanus, these are sharecropper and or person is paying for X amount, and they say both over here they're both gaining, and since they're both gaining, both of them pay. Says the Gemara Pshita. So like tzricha bibura. The first year or years, you're not going to go ahead and get any hana. In other words, the field is going to be empty. You have to leave it, right? So therefore, there's no. You would think to the one who's makabel it, fellas, he has nothing to gain. The one who's makabel it, because he has to leave it empty. So you would think that only the owner of the field would have to pay for it. Kamash Malon, that's the shneim that both go ahead and pay for it, even though it's going to be I guess the word is fallow. You're going to leave it fallow, and therefore the makabel is gaining nothing because he can't plant there. And you would think that would only therefore the owner should pay. Kamash Malon, that no. Okay, next. And shtar birurim, you only write the das of both of them. Now, there's a question of a shtar birurim. The Gemara, guys, is going to give two pshatim. Be aware, both are correct. It's not a machlokes. Both of these are shtar birurim. Okay, both of these bir is to be memvar or something, right? To make it clear. So both of these are shtar birurim. Says the Gemara. My shtar birurim, what exactly are shtar birurim? Says Machim Bavel Tirgamu Shtari Tainasa. That you write down their tainus. In other words, that you write down each one's claim, whatever their claim, whatever the litigation is, you write down their claim, write down the shtar of their claim. Says Rashbam Shtari Tainasa Shnei Seifrei Dayanim, two different Seifrei Dayanim Hayikoisvin Tainus Anshe Yariv. The people who are having the monetary dispute, they would write it down. The reason why they would write it down is that they should not go ahead and change their minds. In other words, once it's written down, I guess you'd say their testimony. This will be their testimony. Once you go ahead and testify, that's it. Right? Even though it's not edus. And through these tainas, Bezdin is going to arrive at their psak. So birurin is your mavara, this one's claim and this one's claim. That's they said in Bavel. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar, Zeh boyer lo echad, v'zeh boyer lo echad. Right? The Yad Ramah says that they're not arguing. The Yad Ramah, there's a Rishon called the Yad Ramah. He says they're not arguing, and there's telling you these are two different shtabi rurim, which is very important because the Gemara is going to go on and say Reb Shimon, clearly Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is not speaking about a birur of dayanim. Okay, birur dayanim is this one picks this dayan, this one picks this dayan, then either they both agree on a third dayan or the two dayanim pick the third dayan. Okay, but this is introduction to Echadini. Moment is the beginning of Sanhedrin, which we're going to get to in Bez Hashem a short period of time. Okay, Reb Shimon Gamliel Aimer l'shneim kaisvin. According to the Tanakama, you only wrote one shtar, and in that shtar you had both tainas of each one. You shtar birur, and you had one shtar, and in that shtar you had litigation. This one said this one said this. Reb Shimon Gamliel said, "Kaisvin shnayim lezeh ba'atzmai ulezeh ba'atzmai." Each one you would write separately. In other words, this one would have his taina written down, and this one would have his taina written down, and collectively they would be separate. In other words, you would not see if I had a court case with Mendy the Kohen, right? You would not see Mendy would have his taina, I would have my taina. Like the Tanakama, each one of us could see each other's taina. Like Shimon Gamliel, it's two separate shtaros, right? Now, what's the lema? Let's say bekoifin al midas sidaim kanifli. Now, midas sidaim is where it's no sweat off your back, and nonetheless, what you're not willing to do it. So Rashbam, beautiful Rashbam, guys. Let's say it's machloikis and kaif midas sidaim. Reb Shimon Gamliel says what? Shimon Gamliel says you write two shtaros, and the Chum say you write only one. Says Rashbam, Lema, we want to suggest it's machlokes what Amida Sedaim, that the Tanakama would say you do force, and therefore you write one star, and Reb Shimon Gamliel says you don't force. And on that, says the Rashbam, Lema b'koyfen Amida Sedaim kamifli. Mida Sedaim kidit nan. In Perakei Avos, Ha'imeh shali shali. Someone says mine is mine. Shalcha shalcha. Zumi this baininess, that's normal. V'yeshaimim zumi the Sedaim. And the others say, no, that's me the Sedaim. You say, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. The Tanakama Savar, Shneim Noistim Schar. They both pay. They're both paying for the Sefer. V'noistim Shtar, v'koisvin Shtar, Echad ben Shneim. And you write one Shtar between both of them. V'im yomer echmehem le'etein Schar. I'm not going to pay. Keni chafet she'yili Shtar Echad levadi. Right? I want my own. I don't want a collective Shtar with you. I want my own. Right? That's the Midas Sedom. I want my star to be by me. I want your star to be by you, but I don't want to pay for your star. I don't want to pay for one star. Then Koifan Isai says the Tanakama will be Koifa Midas Sedoim for Oisin Echad. Kima Sha'ama Midas Sedoim he. Reb Shimon Gamliel Sab Ein Koifan. Okay, guys, outside. What does the Tanakama say? It says one star. One star. Says Reb Shimon Gamliel 2. What's the Midas Sedoim over here? Based upon the Mishnah in Avos. So what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. So you're coming to Bezdin. We're going to write a star in your claim. You're going to write a star in your claim. I'm going to pay for your star. I'm going to pay for your star. I want my own star. I want my own star. You can have your own star, but I'm not paying for you. So that's the Midas Sedaim. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours, right? Koifin al Midas Sedaim says the Tanakama, we do force you, and therefore you have to pay for both. In other words, each one, there's only going to be one star, and each one of us has to pay. Whereas Shimon Gamliel says, no, you don't have one star together. You have each one separate. Why? Because ain't Koifin al Midas Sedaim. And shali v'shalcha shalcha. Let's say that's the machlokes to explain each one. Okay? Good. Says the Gemara, no, it's not true. With the Kuli Alma, everyone's of the opinion, the koifin, you would force a midas sedaim, and you would go ahead and force. If that's the svar of the Tanakama, you would force. V'hacha hainu taima der Shimon Gamliel. The ama if ain't koifin a midas sedaim. No, excuse me. It's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Excuse me. If you're koifin, so we should force to accept it. We shouldn't have two shtaros. You should force one star. So what's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's svara that two shtaros? V'hacha hainu taima der Shimon Gamliel. The amalei that one could say to the other, leinichali. I don't want my schusim next to your schusim. The damasolai arye arva. You're upon me like what? You're upon me like a lion in what? In ambush. What does that mean? In other words, every time you look at this star, what are you going to see? You're going to see this guy's complaint. It's just going to go ahead and cause you to get fights again. Obviously, they're having we've seen some people have some really, really bad fights about money, right? You don't have to know anything about Shas to know people fight about money. That's a given. So every time you can see this star and you're going to see what this person's taina, you're going to go nuts. So you know what? I'll have my star. You won't be written it, and therefore I'm safe. But nothing to do with me this Sedaim. If it was me this Sedaim, we'd force you to write one collective star. But over here, to avoid any angst, right? To avoid any angst, we'll have two separate stars. Let's see the Lashon Rashbam. Umishanina la the medium line. The Kuli Alma Kaifin. The time of the Shimon Mishim the Ksaver ain't so Midas Sedaim. It's not Midas Sedaim over here. Shari Chasahu Harbe Bedavar. In other words, guys, you know what Midas Sedaim is when there's no sweat off your back. There is sweat off his back. Right. Shemichnu Shtarechel L'Shneim. The Ama Leinichali to the Havis Chusi B'Shtarechad Eitzel Chuscha. I don't want my schusim connected your schusim. You know why? The Damya Alai Kari Arava. Kol Shah Shatira Haksav. Anytime I'm going to look at this, Tavai Alai Ba'alilus Tainasech. I'm going to get all these complaints about your claim. Haksuvim by the written there. Visham Tira Tainasi. Navali de Meviva. You can come to get fights and fight again. Kiish Merivasata. Because you're what? You're a person that is bar machlekes. So therefore, to avoid this, not do midas sedaim. That's why the two stars is a good bad. It's a good way of avoiding any conflict. Okay. You know what? Misha para miktas chayvay. So let's say you owe you owe a person $1,000. You paid 500. You paid 500, but you just can't write a new star. That's what you should do. Ultimately, what should you do? Write a totally new star. You don't want to pay for the expense. You don't want to. It's too much of a pain to go to Besdin. So you know what you're going to do? You're going to take the existing star and you're going to give it over to a third party. So here's what happens: you paid off part of the chayv, and the hishlish eshtaroi, and you gave the star over to what? To a third party. You gave the star over to a third party. V'amaloi, and you told the malva, imloi etain, change the gersa. Imloi etain lecha, if I do not go ahead and pay you back the 500, mikan v'adyoin pliny, tain loy shtaroi. Give him the star. And what's he going to collect, guys? The whole thing again. What's your kasha?
Service to the guy who you gave it to.
What? You said to the malva, if I don't pay you back in 30 days, you're going to get back the star and you can collect the whole thing.
Showing that to the third party who's holding it, no?
Again, imloi etain lecha, if I don't pay you back, mikan ba'adyon pliny, tain loy shtaroi, give him his star. Okay, again, I give him the star. I think if your etain means, I assume that you're speaking to what? Right? Lecha. Whatever again, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. In Pshat, it's irrelevant.
But the Malva's going to end up back with
the Malva's end up, and he's going to collect what? $1,500 in this scenario, right? So where's the ribbis here, right? It's ribbis. Okay, so that's what I sent out. That again, what is Shavi? You have a star. What's this guy gaining? You didn't write a shaver on what? Again, you don't have it's a place in the right shaver. Okay, that's the easy way out. The easiest way. Place in the right shaver. Okay, so let's look. I copied a Ritva, fellas. I copied a Ritva. I didn't bring my phone book. Okay, I'll read it to you. Okay, I copied a Ritva. Right, I'm recording. Thank you. Yeah, I am recording. Yes. Okay, so here's the lashon of the Ritva. That's a little slanty. Timtoya, heit goy v'shtar zeh mashakasa boy, but nimchol shibudai. In other words, he was Michael the shibud already. So how can you collect from mishubadim? And Sarach Loimar, Shekain Hisna, here's the condition. Imloina Sati Hashar, Mikan Vadyain Ploini. If I don't give it to you from now until they whatever, Tain Lo Yeshtaroi, give him back his star. Clearly, he's according to the Ritva, it's like Yudov. He's speaking to what?
The guy holding the star.
V'yigvenu kulo, and then he'll be able to collect the whole thing. V'yiyah mashenasati loy ata. And whatever I gave him now, the first 500, matana gemura. I'm giving it to him what? As it'll be a what? A matana. Here, Yehuda. It's going to be a matana. That 500 initially that I gave, it's going to be a matana. V'leka mishum ribis. Kivin the ilu para bismane, since he would have paid up in time, lo yav midi. He wouldn't have given him anything because there was a matana. In other words, if he didn't pay up in time, right? He wouldn't have given him anything. Because why? Because the 500 was a matana. So what does he owe him? 1,000. He owes him the full 1,000. The ain't kan aganat ali. You don't have aganat. Again, what's the rule of ribis? By waiting for my money, my schar is waiting for me. I'm getting, and in this case, there is no schar waiting for you. You know why? Because it was matana. So that's the way the Ritva learns pshat. The Lamdish pshat says the Ritva, the reason why it's not ribis over here, we're not going to view the 500 initial payment as payment of the loan. We'll view it what? As if he doesn't pay up. If he doesn't pay up, it's going to be a matana. And therefore, you're not getting 1,500, you're getting 1,000. Now, the Yad Ramah learns like this. The Yad Ramah, he says very geschmack. His lashon was, the Yad Ramah, Kimin she'ein kan, she'ein ze schar avor hamtana hamois, since this is not, you're not getting paid for waiting for your money. Fellas, if you 30 days, let's say you pay him at on the 23rd hour and 5 minutes, you won't have to pay anything. So it's not that he for waiting for the payment you're getting money, because you again, that little amount of time is not considered waiting. You're not getting more money because you waited. In Cain, it's only it's a kanas. Since you didn't pay up in the right time, we're canceling you. You're supposed to pay up. We're giving you a kanas.
He's canceling himself.
Again, good. He placed. We'll view it as the kanas. We'll view it. But we'll view it as the kanas. We won't view it what. Again, you have to view it as something. So the Ritva reviewed it as a matana. He reviewed it as a kanas. So memela, or else it's ribbit. So, but this, the main point is it's not aganota. You're not getting ahead and getting paid back for waiting for your money back. Now there is another problem over here, and that's the Gemara. Anytime a person says im or if or when, right? Not on tanai. If you say a tanai achshav, it's chal now, or almanas on the condition. That's okay. That's a condition. Anytime a person says, I'm going to do this if or when, then it's a smachta. Because you don't, this guy doesn't expect not to give the money. Why in the world would he give a star to anybody, right? And say, you know what? And if I don't pay up in the 30 days, you're going to get $500 more in my scenario, in my example. The person doesn't believe he's not going to pay up in 30 days. No one does that, right? No one does that. When you go to veto, and you take out at 25, 30% interest rate, you don't expect that you're going to get blown in the kneecaps, right? You expect you pay it up in time.
Credit card. Yeah.
What?
Go to Vito, get a credit card.
You have to go to Vito, get a credit card, right? Okay, but I'm saying that your person. So Fred Gemara Kasha, Fred Gemara. Did I say the Mishnah of Rabbi Yossi Yitain? What?
That's considered an exaggeration.
That's what we're talking about. Rabbi Yossi says that what you would have to pay it. Of course, it's called a smachta. You're calling it, but you're calling the exaggeration. We call an asmachta. We don't expect it to happen. So Rabbi Yehuda the Maikamifli. What's the machlokes between Rabbi Yossi says you give it and Rabbi Yehuda says no? Rabbi Yossi said asmachta kanya. So asmachta kanya. In other words, that you will goyim das. What does the smachta mean? You don't think it's going to happen. So therefore, there's no kinyan. You're not going das to give it. So over here, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion asmachta loikanya, that asmachta is not kaina, and therefore what? And therefore you don't have to give it. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Baravu, Amar Rav Halach Rabbi Yossi. The halach is like Rabbi Yossi, which is interesting because we always say, why would you have to say that? Halach is like Rabbi Yossi. Kini mukayimai, we always say. Kiyasa lekamei deravami amalahu v'chimi achash Rabbi Yochanan milamenu parmi shoinu shniya halach Rabbi Yossi ani ma'aseh ve'en halach Rabbi Yossi. Halach is not like Rabbi Yossi. In fact, halach is not like Rabbi Yossi over here. Over here we paskin that smachta what is loikanya. The smachta is loikanya. So there's a very interesting lumdus over here. Gambling. Gambling is the classic asmachta, right? Now, what's the difference between there we pass on asmachta kanya? Guys, a person who's a gambler, he's pasla edis. Why? Not because asmachta, because he's not being oisipi yeshuva shaloilam. In other words, he's not a goslin. You know why? Because asmachta kanya. Asmachta is kanya over there, but over here it's not like kanya. What's the discrepancy between the two? It's a beautiful lumdus. Guys, listen to the beautiful lumdus. Over here, when this person, like my scenario, paid $500 of $1,000 loan, and he said, "Give me 30 days." At the 30 days, I don't foreclose on my loan and start collecting for my properties. Give me 30 days, and I'll pay back everything. And guess what? If I don't, I'll pay you. You'll collect up the whole thing, right? Is this in his power to do it? Is this in his power to do it? I'm saying something he can do. You bet on a sports team. You bet on a horse. It's not up to you. So really, what you're doing is you're giving it over. You are going medas. You don't. When when you play jackpocket on a phone to bet on the lottery, you put those $2 down, whatever it is, you don't expect to win, and you don't expect to get your $2 back. Therefore, smachtas kanya, you're going midas to give it. Because why? Because it's not in your hands to do it. It's a beautiful discrepancy between different types of asmachta. An asmachta that is not in your power, and a smachta that is in your power. When it's a smachta that's in your power, like Kanya, you know why? Because you think you can go ahead and taka get the money together. So Mamela, you're not magnet to the person. So like Kanya, that's why the law is not like Rabbi Yossi. But where is asmachta Kanya is where you really know that it's not in your hands to do it, and you really are. When you put your money down on, if you bet, right? If you do bet, you put the money on this blackjack table, you know you're not getting it back. You know, or wherever you bet. I'm saying.
Unless you're betting against them. You bet for the Jets, you know you lost. So
I don't like being attacked by my talmidim. We're not discussing the gangrene or brech green. Please stop now. But I will not be. As a matter of fact, a little sauce is green.
Doesn't work either. Bills.
Guys, you had a geschmack chilik, right? You hear Reb David, you had a chilik. It's a very, very nice chilik between the two. But asmachta, there's different types of asmachta. There's one that you're going with that. You don't really want to give away your money, but you know when you buy a lottery ticket, you're giving away the money. You don't expect to win, but you're giving it away. Over here in this Mishnah, you're not giving away this money, and therefore like Kanya, because you think you're going to be able to raise the money. That's the difference between the two. Says the Mishnah, Misha nimchak shtar chayvai, a person has a shtar, and it got ruined, right? It fell in water, or ink got all over it. So my middle of Eidim, you get Eidim together, but they know what was written in the shtar. Ubalif me bezdin, v'oisin like kiyum. You go in front of Bezdin, and the Eidim would testify that what? Ish ploini ben ploini, nimchak shtara b'yim ploini. They would write, so-and-so had a shtar on so-and-so, and it was written on this date, and it was written the amount, uploni elav, and here's the Eidim, and then they makayim the shtar. So this is if the says the Ton Rabbanan, Eze kiyumay. What's the lashon of the shtar that's machik that the dayanim write? In other words, what's the handpick of a shtar that is nimchak? The Moisef Tilsa Avina, we were sitting three together. Anu ploni ploni. Haitzi ploni ben ploni. So and so brought out shtar machak lefanenu, a shtar that was erased. B'yayin ploni ploni. B'yayin ploni kama uploni edav. Now the imkasav boy, and if dayanim wrote huskaknu leedusan shel edim, right? And we checked into their edus, the nimseis edusim mechuvenes, and we find it to be true. Then goiva, you were able to collect the loan. Then it's tzarich labi raya, and you don't have to bring a raya, right? Right. The imlav tzarich labi raya. So if they wrote this, then you don't have to bring a raya. But if the dayanim did not write it, then tzarich labi raya on everything that you claim. Nikra, if the shtar gets ripped by a person, puzzle. Niskara, if the shtar gets ripped by itself, kasha. Nimchak, if it gets erased, on the tashtesh, or it gets inked up. Im rishume nikar, if it's possible to go ahead and make out what it says in the shtar, then kasha. Hechidami nikra, what's exactly we got to get that it's he said it's puzzle, and hechidami niskra, where it's got ripped up by itself and it's kasha. How could you tell? Rabbi Yehuda, nikra korishal bezdin. That's the ripping of bezdin. Niskara is korashen shal bezdin, not bezdin. Hechidami korishal bezdin. What exactly is the ripping up of bezdin? Rabbi Yehuda, mekayma edim. You rip up the piece of edim. Umakam zman, the place of the zman. Basically the tayrif. Umakam tayrif, the name of the leiva and the malva and the amounts. In other words, not the boiler, not the typhus part, the tayrif part. So clearly, if those are ripped up, you can see that bezdin did the job, and therefore it's going to be puzzle. However, anything less than that, Abaya says, Shesi ve'eriv, no much, you don't need so sophisticated. If it's ripped, if it rips by itself, it's going to rip one direction. If it ripped Shesi ve'eriv, then you know it's Bezdin that ripped it up. Okay. Hanu Arvoi, there were these Arabs, the Asu Lipumbedisa, they came to Pumbedisa, and they were unfortunately a Rechtige Chevra. They were going ahead and forcing people off their land, and they would go ahead and they would want the shtar as well. In other words, not only would they force him, the title, they want the title, the shtar, that they own it. The Abaya, the owners of the land now came in front of Abaya, and what did they wanted to do? They wanted Abaya to write another shtar of their ownership, so to preclude the Arabs. So Amrulei lechsi mar shtarin v'lichtala mar shtar achrinola, right? The buyer, they told the buyer to go ahead, Rod, and write another shtar that it's still, the misnis chad naktinan chad biyadan. If the Yishmaelim take away one, we'll have another one. So Amaluhu, Abai told them, Maya Evedluchu, what can I do for you? Damrav Safra, in Kaisim Shtei Shtaris, al Sada Achas. You don't write two shtaris vat on one field, because Dilma Tarif or the Tarif. Maybe you'll use it twice to go ahead and collect from the Kuchais. If people bought the land after the loan, and already was a lien on it, and you have two shtaris, they'll be used twice. So I can't write you another shtar. Again, it can show up again. Says the Habikatar delay, but they weren't taking no for an answer to Abaya, and they were bothering him very much. And Amalei, I think it could be that they had the shtar and they were scared the Arab would take it. Could be. So what happened? So Amalei, Abaya said Lasafre to the Sefer, Zil Kasavlu. Listen, they're driving me nuts. Go write them the following. Right? Hu al machak ve'edav al haniyor. So we saw earlier in this parak, if the shtar is written, you write something, guys, you erase it, you leave the unerased part. So if the edim are signed on the unerased part, and the shtar is on the erased part, then we won't go ahead and accept that, right? We're going to say that's no good. We're going to say that's no good. So Abaya said, listen, what did Abaya basically do? As my father's language, he gave him the futch. He gave him the futch, He said, okay, write him a shtar. Right? Write him a shtar. I was by a chasana once. It was in Bnei Brak. Guy in yeshiva was getting married to a Rosh Kollel's daughter. And the Rosh Kollel wanted stuff written into the ksuba that weren't standard stuff. He wanted the chassan to guarantee some stuff. My Rebbe was the Masada Kedushin. And they began fighting underneath by the chassan's tish. They began a little vikuach, like, right now you're breaking out this, what's going on over here? Like, you're breaking out I'm watching this. I'm saying this is very uncomfortable. And Rosh Hashiva says, schreib the ksuba. Rosh Hashiva said, write the ksuba, whatever they want. Was will, write it. So they write up the ksuba, and the Rosh Hashiva starts to read the ksuba, and he says, oh, no, it's puzzle. He rips it up. And then he wrote the ksuba. He wrote the ksuba up. Like, but I said Rosh Hashiva gave him the futch, right? And he wrote up the ksuba just like by hand. I remember the handwritten ksuba. He just wrote it over. Okay, that's it. So you told him what you wanted to hear. You gave him what he wanted to hear, and then he went ahead and did what he doing anyway. Anyway, amazing. Just to finish the story, that we'll have it for this person went for surgery. This person who got married, he went for surgery. It was before his wedding. He went for surgery, and I don't know why he all of a sudden we got a call in yeshivas in Sakana that his blood pressure is going down, and they were worried they're going to lose him. The Rashiva, I wasn't there. I wasn't there, but I know somebody was. Says Rashiva went over to the Aron. He opened up the Aron Kodesh. He stuck his head in. He stood there. He was in there for a few minutes. Took his head out, and he said, "Ich havem avek geschleppt." He said, I pulled him out. He said, "Ich havem avek geschleppt." And this is guy's wedding in Bnei Brak. This guy got married in Bnei Brak. But his like, "Ich havem avek geschleppt." Yeah. Anyway, such great stories with him. Anyway, so this Abaya so write this thing. So Amalei Ravacha Bar Miyumi Abaya. Now the Havamina was, fellas, that you wrote the shtar out, and then you erased it, right? And then you erased it, and then you rewrote it. So the problem is in Rishume Nikar, if it's recognizable, the original Ksav, you have a problem because then it's kasha. So the Havamina was you wrote the shtar, you erased it, and then that's the original Havamina. So Serav Achabar Miyumi Labaya, Vidilma Rishume Nikar, maybe the original shtar is still recognizable. Vitanya Nimchak, if the star is erased, or nitashtes, or the star had ink on it. In mishume nicker, if you can recognize what the original star, it's kasha. So Amalei, so Abaya said, Mikra im the star ma'alya. You think I wrote down a real star? Aleph beis ba'alma kamina. You write down on the aleph beis, write down something, gibberish, erase it, and then write the star. And therefore you would have no problem. Schmack.